Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to my Positive Life Answers podcast. This is episode 7, so welcome. And this episode is called Transforming Your Discouraging Beliefs About Your Problems or Difficult Times into More Hopeful and Encouraging Beliefs. I'm your podcast host and self-improvement expert, Dr. Mary Ann Mercer, and you can call me Dr. Mary. In my Positive Life Answers podcasts, my goal is to help you transform the quality of your life and help you create the life you desire. The goal of these podcasts is to help you make improvements and changes in your life in practical ways. And we really want you to live your best life ever. In today's episode, we will look at how to transform discouraging beliefs about your problems or troubled times in your life into more hopeful, positive, and encouraging ones. By the way, thank you for your support since releasing my episodes, my first few episodes. Please continue to enjoy my podcast and don't keep me a secret. Share it with others that can really benefit from these podcasts. And thank you for your email messages or questions. This is what this podcast is all about, which is helping you. So your feedback and your questions is really important to make this space more enjoyable for everyone. In case you are new to this podcast, welcome. I'm glad you found me. In my first episodes, we talked about, and listeners have learned, key secrets to changing your life, how to increase the likelihood of making a new habit and changes in your life stick. You also learned my amazing 60-second techniques to become more happy and optimistic, as well as resilient and hardy people's traits that you can use and learn very easily. These traits of resilience help you become more confident in your ability to make changes or improvements in your life. And then recently we talked about releasing these agony anchors that hold you back from being happy or making improvements or creating the life you desire. And we followed it up with what to replace after you release those agony anchors, which I called in my patented technique called positive mind condition. And before we move on today, I want to announce that March is coming up, and March is Optimism Month. Did you know it was Optimism Month in March? This is even listed in the Chase's calendar of events. And I'm so proud my co-author and I, Dr. Michael Mercer, created Optimism Month. And it's listed in Chase's calendar of events, so people all over the U.S. can look at that and contact us about what to do during Optimism Month. And I will remind you about Optimism Month and what to do each week during the month next time. Also, my co-author and creator of Optimism Month is going to join us, Dr. Michael Mercer, so stay tuned. This should be fun. Overall, my philosophy is that you don't need years of therapy to feel more hopeful, resilient, and optimistic. In my unique intensive coaching sessions with hundreds of clients over the years and my years as a therapist, I always use these techniques. It always amazes me how the simple tactics help form good foundation for which my clients can vastly improve their lives. And you can contact me about my unique intensive coaching sessions. And the answer to some of the questions that came in is yes. Yes, I'm taking on just a few new clients. Questions I received from readers also asked, and they said they'd love to sign up, but do they have to come in person or can we do this on Zoom or some other type of video call? And the answer is yes, we can meet in person or on a video call such as Zoom for these intensive coaching meetings and sessions. Either way, it's just as productive and effective. So go to my Positive Life Answers website and use the Contact Us form to ask and inquire about intensive coaching sessions with me, and then I can get back to you. And as part of my listeners, I will give you my email address. I just do not post it online because of all the scam and junk mail I receive from not very nice people. So you can contact me at Dr. Mercer, that's DrMercer at PositiveLifeAnswers.com. So that's Dr. Mercer at PositiveLifeAnswers.com. So jot that down and shoot me an email, and also give me an email on your questions that you would like me to discuss in these sessions. So let's get to today. Let's focus on today's topic about transforming your discouraging beliefs and turning into more hopeful and encouraging ones. I came across a quote by J.K. Rowling, and that quote said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." And that was really profound. Rock bottom became the solid foundation in which I rebuilt my life. You don't have to wait till you hit rock bottom, but if you feel that way, these techniques are going to help. Here's what you can do. It's really important to pause and answer some of the following questions I will discuss with you in order to take steps to rebuild yourself, your life, after a difficult time or periods of unhappiness or even a crisis. This is where you take the skills you learned in my first few podcasts and tackle the core of changing your attitudes and beliefs now. Here you can really install productive thoughts and responses so you can create and control your life in a new and productive way. You will learn how to create and control the direction of your life. And yes, other podcasters or speakers talk about, have a vision, be optimistic, be happy. They don't tell you the specific steps to do. They don't tell you how easy it is habit-wise if you just knew the secret recipe and ingredients to do that. So I am thrilled to be able to share that with you. So let's look at life-changing questions. These life-changing questions are really the point to start with. And yeah, it's I'm going to give you some homework right now. If you're driving or traveling, listening to this, just reflect on what I'm saying and go back to this podcast when you're sitting down so you can take a pad of paper and your journal and write them down and make some notes to yourself. Right now, just at least reflect on these. What are you thinking about and focusing on right now? Or generally, what are you thinking about and focusing on? Then, think of a time in the past when you made it through a difficulty or a problem. Reflect and give yourself credit for getting through those problems and difficulties. Give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself credit for getting through some times that you had before that were hard or challenging. Notice these feelings right now. Notice your thoughts. Notice how you're acting to taking the moment to feel good about the efforts you did. Recognize how this makes you feel better, stronger, and improve your life. So notice those feelings. Why is this important? You're probably asking me in terms of looking back and seeing how you made it through some difficulty or you figured out something that was a great solution to a problem. Well, you need to reflect. And the recognition of those feelings and thoughts and these questions and instances becomes what I call your reference point. Reference points are really important. And resilient people do that instinctually, but you can do that just by learning this. And what I mean by this is you can always refer or reflect on the feeling or perspective when you need encouragement in the present moment to cope or change your times of unhappiness or difficult situations. So you can always look back on these answers that you gave and they become your reference point so that when you have some problem times or unhappiness, you can refer back to this, that, yeah, I made it through these other difficult times and I can do it again. You can be your own cheerleader and recognize these accomplishments. So what are reference points and how are they helpful? Reference points mean you can always refer to a thought and feeling or perspective when you need to cope or change your situation. To create changes and resolve problems in your life, reflect, remember, and tap into your reference point you created here just now to help you become more confident and even skilled at moving ahead in your life. Now that you've done that, let's move on to some questions that are really important to explore. In your difficult time right now, or just feeling of dissatisfaction and unhappiness, my question to you, what are you saying about a difficult situation or time in your life? What are you saying about it? During the world pandemic we all faced, I noticed two ways of looking at the problem of being quarantined, stuck at home for so many months. I noticed people had two different ways of looking at the situation or coping with this. Some people would say over and over again, I'm so upset. I can't see my family and my friends. I feel alone. I feel like we're drifting apart. I don't know what to do with myself. Other people who coped better and came out of this stronger said, I'm so grateful I can call and video chat with my friends and family on a regular basis. We lean on each other and support each other. We talk about our feelings and our thoughts. And as a result, we become even closer because we all went through the difficulty together, even when physically apart. A personal example, my family and I would set up time to talk every week. We made the best out of an upsetting situation. And sometimes we had fun. We would go online, use FaceTime or whatever device that people use, and they sat me at the table and I virtually sat at the dinner table and talked with my family. Because when the kids are sitting at the dinner table and they're more relaxed and are more likely to open up and talk about some fun things, and it really made me feel good and I felt part of the family. In terms of what to do with themselves, some people who were bored didn't know what to do with themselves, I remember one day I went to the mailbox and bumped into a new neighbor. And after introducing ourselves and talking about what we do and so forth, I asked him what he was doing during this period of being stuck at home. And he said, "Mary, this is great. I've been so busy, I haven't had time to come up with new inventions and new ideas." He was quite a creative person, had built up a business, sold it at a young age, and he was so happy to be home and take time to come up with his next creative project. And he did just do that. That was an amazing story, and that stuck with me and inspired me to search and wrote my book during quarantine called Bouncing Back from Difficult Times, because I knew that's what would be needed when we came to the end of those stories. So, coming back to these questions, the choices you make is really important. Decide to take the following step to help you move forward now. You can choose to be upset, you can choose to be in a problem-solving mode. Whichever the choice you make, first feel the emotions of the difficult situations such as unhappiness, sadness, anger, loss, whatever the feelings are. Notice the feelings and do not judge them. Do not avoid them. Avoiding your feelings just really creates a feeling of anxiety and anxiousness, and sometimes it just pops up at other random times that you don't remember where they were coming from. So take time to feel your reactions and emotions now. So feel the emotions of your difficult situation now. And then second, we're going to release them. Let them pass through you. Don't hang on to the feelings such as sadness, loneliness. Imagine them floating away like a bubble in the wind. Watch and feel the wind moving them away from you. Picture and feel this right now. And that's not hard to do. Just imagine them leaving you. Feel the feelings, acknowledge them, and let them release. Let them pass through. If you don't, they'll stay stuck. And then third, prepare yourself to look ahead. Get ready and focus on changing your life for the better. Remember your reference point you created just a few minutes ago and feel more confident in moving ahead. And I know what you're thinking. Why in the world would I say feel and not resist emotions even if they're unpleasant or negative? The key here is that resisting negative feelings makes it all worse for anybody. It'll make it all worse for you. You'll feel like the pressure building inside you when you hold them inside. The pressure builds up over time and creates a feeling of uneasiness. The pressure leads to feelings of uncertainty and anxiety. Then when you feel nervous and lose sense of where they were actually coming from in the first place, it gets so confusing and it gets so generalized that you might feel that you just can't cope with life. And it's an uneasy place to live and it affects everything you do. Holding emotions away from you really means that you're hanging on to them in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your body. It makes it worse not only for your thoughts and feelings, but for your entire life. When you feel emotions, you are releasing resistance to them. And it helps you move past the blocks it created that kept you powerless. I recommend inviting them in and letting them go using the steps I just told you about. It'll help them dissolve and pass through you. And so you finally can let go of them. Finally, you'll feel a sense of calmness and quiet after you do this exercise. Why is that? The other thought is you can only have one thought at a time in your mind. You've learned that before in these podcasts. So if you can only have one thought at a time in your mind, it's a choice on which thoughts you will hold on to now. Those who coped well during challenging times or during the recent pandemic saw setbacks and difficult times as productive turning points in their lives. Just like the entrepreneur I just talked about. He saw this as a new opportunity for a new project and creativity in his life. And it became a turning point into what direction he was heading into. So use setbacks or difficult times as a turning point. They would believe it was a chance to head in a new direction. Other people would just give up, stay unhappy, and stuck in a rut. Remember what you learned from me, that you can have an upsetting attitude and an upbeat attitude. You can focus on complaining or you can focus on solving. Since you can only focus on one thing at a time in your mind, the choice is yours. Given you're sticking with these podcasts, your choice is to make some changes and do something about it. During difficult times when we're unhappy with our life, the choice we make determines the meaning of our lives. What are you going to choose? Think about that and determine it. If you choose challenging times as a turning point or an opportunity that will help you feel more in control in the direction of your life, you will see some amazing results. Some people see these losses or setbacks or difficulties as a great time to reinvent themselves. Let me give you another example. A client of mine was really unhappy at her workplace. She loved her occupation, but the place she worked at did not appreciate her. Yet they took advantage of her skills and ideas and was always asking her questions. Although she felt really good about giving advice to people, because she felt unappreciated, she was dissatisfied. And when the pandemic hit and her workplace closed for a while, she realized she was putting off making a decision that she was thinking about for a while. The dilemma was whether to leave the security of her job, where she did not like the environment, or face the challenges of starting her own business. So she decided to turn the situation into an opportunity and a positive turning point in her life. She gave her boss notice that she would not be returning back to work when they reopened. And the moral of the story is she used this crisis as an opportunity to do what she put off for well over a year and a half. She faced her feelings of frustration and dissatisfaction and started her own business. And the good news that I can tell you, currently her business is growing. She feels more confident in herself and happy with her choices in life. And what a great story and example for you to hear. There are many stories I can tell you like this about people using the time to build their own business and creative projects and come out better than ever. Unexpected events or difficulties can make you feel out of control and very vulnerable. Therefore, it's important to shift, and that's an important word. It's important to shift the way you respond to the situation so you'll feel more in control. Now that you learn and practice some of these optimism secrets, you currently have a choice on how to respond to bad times and grow from it. Focus on what you can control, which is your feelings, reactions, and choices. It's as simple as that. You have to make a choice. And choosing good things is just as easy as choosing the bad. So make this shift in your feelings and thoughts so you can turn difficult times, feeling unhappy, whatever it is that you're facing, into an opportunity to grow and improve your life. And here are the steps to guide you. In earlier episodes, I hinted and gave you a taste of the following questions. Let's put them all together in a flowing kind of feel so that you're ready to take some steps easily. And now you're ready to take the steps, and here they are all together for you. If you're new to this podcast, you may need to listen, and I would suggest listen to my podcast called Optimism Habits Made Easy, episodes 3 and 4. And this will give you a good foundation and help you really feel more confident and less resistant to making changes and improvements in your life. If you don't feel confident, questions may be a little more of a challenge for you. But if you have done that optimism homework, or at least be aware of it, you are ready. So either way, listen to those 2 podcasts before and get ready for it. And if you are already passed through that and have practiced releasing your agony anchors, congratulations. So here are the steps to guide you. Number 1, the magic question. I call this the magic question because when I've done this in my intensive coaching sessions, it's just amazing what happens in people's reactions. The question I ask is, what is your life's most heartfelt aspiration? Take a moment to reflect on this question before we continue. What's your most heartfelt desire? Notice your thoughts. Notice your feelings and reactions. And please write them down if you can. 2, let's look at how to pinpoint precisely what you want in your life. These are powerful, heartfelt questions that you need to know and answer. Take some time to work on the following heartfelt questions along with these mini visualization exercises. This will help you further evaluate precisely what you most want or desire. Doing so will lead you to establish your vision and goals that you will feel excited about for changing and improving your life. And I really believe this is what you need to do before jotting down what goals you want to accomplish. So homework to do right now, little visualization exercise. And if you can't do it right now, when you get home or in a place where you can sit down, remember to come back to this exercise. Sit down and get into a relaxed state. Whatever it is that you do. Some people do deep breathing. Some people just sit in a chair and close their eyes. So get into a relaxed state that you feel comfortable with. And think about the following questions. And answer them with your eyes closed in a relaxed mode. If you can do that with your eyes closed in a relaxed mode, you will tap into more resources in your brain. If you're doing this while walking or driving, you can still think about it, but you'll be using more of that logical side of the brain. So we want to tap into both sides to get the best answers. So either think about it, and then if you can, think about it first, and then go into a relaxed state and see what questions you have and what your answers are. So question 1, imagine or picture what you most like to have in your life. Imagine or picture what you would most like to have in your life. About that, feel it. Where do you feel it in your body? Take a moment to look at that. What would you like to improve? What would you like to change in your life? And write down your responses to those questions. Question 2, keep in mind your answers to question 1. This is a mind blower for a lot of people. Imagine how you would feel if it were 5 years from now, even 3 to 5 years from now, and you still have not brought into your life what you most want to have, improve, or change. So if you didn't have that in the next 3 to 5 years, what emotions does that bring up for you? Write them down. This is an eye-opening question. Many times I've noticed clients in the intensive life coaching sessions, they feel like they were hit in their stomach. They feel in the pit of their stomach that such an amazing question for them. And they get often sad and teary, and they say, well, if I'm like this in 3 to 5 years from now, I don't know how I would feel and want to go on. So this really, really nails those emotions. So write them down. Question 3, ask yourself, why have I not already accomplished these things before? Why haven't you done it before? Many people say, well, maybe, I never took the time to see what I really want. I put everybody's needs ahead of mine. I never thought about it enough. Or sometimes they just say they were afraid to do things differently and held on to many excuses. So what are your reasons and excuses? And they are reasons and excuses. Write them down. And remember that agony anchors that we talked about recently in the last episode. Identify what they are, and you know how to let them go now. Question 4, if you can do, have, or be anything you want in life, what would that be? Imagine your perfect world, your ideal existence. You can also achieve this fabulous state of affairs by imagining you reached your heartfelt vision. Put down on paper and describe the perfect scenario that you can imagine. Write the details of what you're doing, what you're feeling, and what you're seeing in your perfect, wonderful existence. And yes, it doesn't have to be perfect, but imagine if it could be anything, it would be a wonderful time. So imagine what that is, and please write it down. And there's some more questions, so bear with it. Ask yourself question number 5. What's ultra important to me? What matters to me? The reason I ask those questions, I found some people, when they answer these questions, they feel like they were hit also by a bolt of lightning. For example, what they answered as ultra important to them is not consistent with their most desired actions or plans or values. So you can value something that's very time consuming, such as perhaps one client, she wanted to start her own business. But when she asked herself what was really important to her, she discovered that building her business would take her away from spending time with her family and children. What mattered most to her was being there for her kids at this time in their lives. Thus, she had 2 very strong competing desires and priorities. She really wanted her own business, and she really wanted to be there for them. So her solution was to build her business 50%, 45 to 50% of the time, and balance it with spending the other 50% with her husband and children. And that worked for her. It took her time, but the time of pacing herself actually helped her get more clarity, more reflection, and build it in a way that came out more productive than ever. The solution worked perfectly. Her balance of time and attention gave her more energy to focus on building her business because she released her agony anchor of what was for her guilt not being around her family, and anxiety that she had unconsciously allowed to hold her back. So take a moment to say, what's really important to me, what matters to me, what are my values? You might value security, but want to start your own business. Well, starting your own business, you're not going to have the strong value of security. So you have to decide if that's something that you can live with, and then work your way into developing a situation where your business is flowing in money and being successful. Question 6. Remember, get in your relaxed state again. I want you to just close your eyes and relax and imagine Imagine everything you did in your last week. Picture all the activities you took part in and engaged in. So everything you did in the last week, be honest. So first write those responses down. What did you do in the last week with your life? And then I want to ask you, how much of your weekly activity actually helped you move closer to achieving what you want in your life? And it just doesn't have to be about work. It could be about relationships or anything else that you're desiring in your life. So write down your activities that you did last week and then compare them to what you really want in your life from those previous questions. If you're like most people, you probably spend less than 50% of your time taking steps or actions to helping you achieve what you want in your life. I think the average person wanders through life doing whatever needs attention at the moment. Their attention is drawn to A, then to B, then to C, and they lose track of what they really should have been doing that day until too late in the day. They lose perspective of what's important to them. Average people do what pops up rather than what truly matters the most. And people who are successful in their careers, their family life, or relationships, they know what truly matters. They're like ships sailing with the radar on, but average people are like ships sailing with their radars off. And that's what these questions are for, helping you fine-tune your radar. So now you have an idea of what's important in your life, and we'll take steps to create more of what you desire for your life and vision in the next few podcasts. So hang on to these questions and answers as we take further steps to create the life you desire, rebuild it, or establish your radar, your vision for your life. So hang on to these. And like I said before, if you're just listening to this, that's fine, because it still will get the wheels turning inside. I really recommend that as soon as you can, sit down, maybe before going to bed at night, and writing your answers down to these questions. Yes, I'm giving you homework. Yes, you can just listen to this and kind of tinker around with the thoughts. Even if you just do that, you're way ahead of the crowd. And if you really are serious, you'll do this homework. In terms of homework, as a reminder, don't forget to keep practicing your optimism and resilient habits that we talked about, and keep moving into the future. Secondly, reflect on these questions from today. Make some time to listen to this episode again and reflect. An email I received from a listener asks, why are resilient and optimistic people part of my teachings and my podcast? I just want to be happy or happy again. And other people, speakers or podcasters, they just focus on being happy. Well, you can focus on being happy, but I'll guarantee you that little feeling of happiness that they might perk you up doesn't last. What lasts is building the foundation that leads to happiness. And that's what we're doing here. Optimistic and resilient people are really important because, for example, optimistic people, they have a clear and exciting vision and meaning for their lives. They possess a clear vision of an exciting and meaningful life, and they work on goals to help them get to those exciting and meaningful visions for their life. And because they do that and see results, they have a can-do, confident attitude. They problem solve when problems come up and don't get stuck there. And they take a lot of responsibility for their lives, and as a result, they really live a prosperous life in all aspects of their lives. And resilient people, when problems come up, they accept the situation. They don't deny that there's a crisis or a problem situation. However, they accept it. Instead of fighting it, they work on how to resolve the problem and move on in their lives, and you can too. They also accept the need to change, which we talked about, and they're flexible and adaptable. Sometimes you need to take action that you never imagined that you had to do before. So optimistic and resilient people, they bend and they don't let difficult times break them. They're flexible to make a shift or a change in the midst of challenges in your life. They are very adaptable and not inflexible, and that's what I'm trying to teach you here. Briefly again, what can you learn from resilient people? Let them be a role model like the optimistic people. They deal with the reactions and accept the situations challenging them. They acknowledge the need to change their position in a flexible and adaptive manner. This includes changing their expectations and sometimes their plans for their life, but they really focus on reevaluating what the situation's like in their lives. And they really do believe that problems don't last forever. That's a great outlook to have on their life. So I'm teaching these important skills so you can create your best life ever. And this goes way beyond the quest to just be happy. Happiness is a temporary state. You've got to build from the ground and get the roots in that ground by using these habits of optimism, resilient people, and looking at these heartfelt questions. These are deep and long-lasting changes and behaviors that will stay with you well beyond this podcast to keep helping you. So optimistic and resilient people, which I researched and wrote about in my book, and with my co-author, Spontaneous Optimism, and then I wrote Bouncing Back from Difficult Times. And we discover the resilience and optimistic trait is the key to succeeding in your desire to make improvements in your life and also transform the quality of your life. And yes, my co-author and I regularly use these questions and steps to monitor and reevaluate where we are in our lives and directions we are going in. The first month of this year, we reevaluated what our goals are, what our vision, where we're going, what worked last year, what didn't work, and change some strategy. And that's really important to do. For next time, we're going to talk about Optimism Month, because March is Optimism Month. It gives you opportunities and activities to do all month long, help boost your optimism. And then in upcoming episodes, we'll take steps to create the life you desire, start creating your vision, and discover your inspiring vision for your life. Remember, hang on to these questions from today, because a couple episodes, we will take those thoughts and reactions you had to really figure out what your life vision is. So go to positivelifeanswers.com now to sign up for your Positive Life Answers newsletter. When you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a free guide, and it is free, called Quick Tips to Become More Upbeat and Optimistic. And you can also go to our online store to get a copy of Spontaneous Optimism and my latest book, Bouncing Back from Difficult Times. While you're at the website, please email your questions and comments using the Contact Us form. I will respond to your questions and comments during my podcast or individually if that's what it calls for. And because you listen to this whole podcast, I will give you my direct email. I don't post it anymore on these podcast descriptions because of all the spam mail that's been coming in. So here is my email. So you can email me questions or comments or ask me about intensive coaching sessions. My email is Dr. Mercer, that's DRMERCER at positivelifeanswers, with an S at the end of answers.com. That's DRMERCER at positivelifeanswers.com. And that stands for Dr. Mercer at positivelifeanswers.com. Or use the contact form regarding questions you have. Please use the contact form to get a hold of me regarding the intensive coaching sessions and packages. I only have a few spots left at this time, and then I'll be closed to new clients for another month because I only take a limited amount of individuals to give them quality work. But I will be taking some later on. A note to my listeners, this podcast is to provide you useful information and useful and practical information to my listeners. It's published with the understanding that your host, Dr. Mary Mercer, or me, is not engaged in rendering professional services or counseling or therapy through the contents of this podcast. If professional services is needed by the listener, such as counseling or psychotherapy, then the listener is responsible for seeking the services of a competent professional. So contact your local psychological association or contact your doctor for a referral. In the meantime, use these questions and optimism habits and techniques. So stay tuned for more, and thank you for listening. Positively, Dr. Mary.